Hello and welcome to Exploring Beyond the Margins. I'm your host, Jason, and I have return guest Rieka with me. Rieka, thank you so much for coming back to see us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to tell everybody right up front that Rieka and I are going to record 2 episodes. I want to split them so that we can get a couple of different things in so everybody can get to know her. Please feel free to check out our website, www.weempowervoices.org. All of our videos will be there, and once we have our shop set up, that will be there too. Rieka, I'm really excited to see you. I'm glad that you have been able to make it here with us during Mercury retrograde. I know a lot of us have been having technical issues. I had a specific track in mind that I wanted to take you down because one of the things that interested me most about you is your knowledge. And you have knowledge about things that people are interested in, but there's so much information out there that it's hard to decipher between misinformation and truth. And I've read your website, I've read your blogs, I've spoken to you, I've gotten to know you a little bit. I feel comfortable with your understanding of things. And I know that sounds weird, but I'm very protective of my viewers. So I have to trust somebody before I'll let them start sharing information with people. What I'd like to talk about today is Wicca. I'd like to talk about witchcraft. I know that those are 2 different things, and I know a lot of people confuse them. I would like to focus on the similarities and differences, but mostly I want to shift away and talk about Wicca and what it is, what people that call themselves Wiccan believe, where they get that from. Anything you can give us about that would be amazing. But first, let's start with what is really the difference? It sounds the same to me too, even though I know the difference now. It sounds the same to me, Wicca and witchcraft. What is the difference?
So, Wicca is actually a religion, whereas witchcraft is the practice of magic. It is using energy to create change. So, you
Okay.
can be Wiccan and be a witch. You can practice witchcraft and be Wiccan, but those 2 don't necessarily go hand in hand because I said Wiccan is an actual religion where you work alongside with deity, as opposed to witchcraft that you don't have to work with deity. So
Huh.
that's the basic
Inter-
difference between them.
Okay, so Wiccans work with deities or what some people might call gods, right?
Yes, gods and
Um,
goddesses, yes. They do
which,
both.
okay. Okay,
It's
so,
typically,
okay,
yes, it's
fair, yes.
honoring the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And some people will just call it that. They
Okay,
don't have to go within a certain pantheon. Some people do, like
okay.
but generally Wiccan, it sticks to more just the god and goddess, lord and lady type of thing, as opposed to some of the other, like the broad umbrella of paganism.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that is something that, to be honest, I understand it, but I get confused because the lines seem to be very blurry there. So if witchcraft is not a religion, Wicca is a religion, is paganism a religion?
No, so pagan is the overall broad umbrella for anyone who is not Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, like the major religions of the world, or
Okay.
atheist. That can go with the different pantheons, people who practice Norse, with the Norse gods and things like that, that pantheon. Some people work with the Roman deities or the Greek deities. Some people work with a mix of them. There's the Celtic ones as well. The Celtic witchcraft is very popular. It works off, the Irish, Scottish um, gods and goddesses. So, like I said, pagan, Wiccans fall under the pagan umbrella, but witchcraft doesn't necessarily fall under paganism unless they are working with deity. So you can practice magic and be a witch because you can also be a Christian witch. And I have met many of them
Okay.
through some of my, interactions on my social media. And they believe in their God and Jesus, but they are using the angels. And they are using those beings to work their magic as opposed to not bringing in other deities and things like that. So Wiccans can fall under
Okay.
that with Witchcraft doesn't necessarily have to fall under the paganism umbrella unless they work with deity. Does that make sense?
Okay, that's interesting. I used
Okay.
to run with a lot of Christian circles. The people I knew were very good people. They were good people. They were kind-hearted people. They were a little bit judgy, but they were following their faith or whatever, you know. But I do remember a lot of things, but I do remember that in the Christian faith were typically servants of humans by their own choice, by their own choice. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense that a Christian who also considered themselves a witch would use the angels in that way. That's actually, I didn't know that, but that's very interesting. It lines up with what I know from my past. So that's, they must take a lot of heat for that. But I do remember reading, I'm going to get this wrong too. It was an ancient Hebrew book. I want to say it was the Cabal
The Kabbalah,
that
Kabbalah, yes.
that that nobody gets to see unless you're deep into the
Hmm.
Hebrew faith. And from what I understand, though, that there is a lot of magic with a K rituals in that book. So even early Hebrews knew and practiced. But I mean, and to
If you
me,
look
I
at
like what you go ahead, go
if
ahead.
you look at the Catholic faith, I mean, it is very real, ritualistic. If you go
Yes,
into a church,
yes,
they have an altar and they have their little incense smoke and they go around to the elements. So they are
yes.
invoking the elements, whether they're calling that or not. And they eat the body of the Christ and the blood of Christ. And it is a very ritualistic religion. They just don't look at it that way. It's a Christian religion as opposed to pagan religion. And that somehow
Well,
makes it better.
well, funny enough, in that past life, we would have actually spoken poorly about Catholics because they pray to saints, they do magic. Fundamentalist Christians are the ones that I was associated with. They do not. That is something they're very hardcore about. So when you looked at Catholicism, it was clear they were doing magic, but they didn't see it that way. So it's interesting that you went that route because yes, I have experienced that as well. I thought it was cool, but I didn't like all the rules, so I had a hard time with that. You had said, everybody, that's Artemis, by the way.
Yeah, sorry.
As you know, animals are welcome to come on screen on the show. You had mentioned deities. You also mentioned the feminine and masculine. So, do some people differentiate like they're only calling on the energy? And then there's other people who actually associate a true deity with it? Or is it kind of the
Mm,
same thing?
no, so it's I think how to explain this. So there is one of them that comes to mind that just works with the goddess, and that is the Dianic covens in practice. So they only work with the divine feminine. So in nature, there are masculine, feminine energies. It's a duality, and that is how reproduction happens. Except in those weird things where we're not going to go down that road. But for let's say 95% of nature, it is dualistic. So the Christian faith came in and it took away the divine feminine and pushed it aside, and we only had the God. That also happened in the Egyptian when they were just doing the sun god Ra in that dynasty where they got rid of the feminine. Um, Different ones will call it just the god and goddess, and that is the overall. My cat is attacking me. That is the overall umbrella, and they're not working with a specific pantheon.
She's okay. She's all right.
That's why I call for fur demon. Um, other ones, other
Excuse me.
other ones will. So just going back to your comment about the saints, if you look at that, so think about it this way: you have in the Greek, Norse, uh, Celtic, Roman pantheons, you have a god of war, a goddess of love, earth goddess. So a lot of those are the primordial earth mothers, type of thing. And you have messenger gods and fertility goddesses and all that. So those energies all break down to something that they quote unquote rule, right? And so the Catholic,
Right.
that's what those saints are. You have the Saint Christopher is
Yes.
the saint untraveled. So they took what the pagans had as far as breaking down those energies into deities. Oh, excuse me, it's that Mercury retrograde, and broke it down into deities that rule those energies. So, like when we're in Mercury retrograde, we're praying to the Mercury god or Hermes if you
Right.
go to the
Right.
other pantheon. Please let technology
Right.
work for me today.
Please.
Please don't let any glitches happen. So again, some of them are just calling in the divine masculine and the divine feminine. They may not even use the words God and goddess. Some of them do, some
Okay.
of them use the term Lord and Lady. It breaks down to each individual practice, or sometimes if you're part of a tradition or a specific coven, or that they may have certain ways that they um, work or call in deity. And that's how you learn that or work in those energies. The previous group that I was with, we did have specific deities that we worked with in different times of the years. So in the light half of the year, spring and summer, it was the sun god Lu. And this was all like Celtic kind of based. The sun god Lu, and then Bridget. She actually became a saint, the only goddess to make it
Yes.
to sainthood.
That's
And then the dark half of the year, we worked with the Morrigan and Hearn. And most of them call on the goddess first, even though they are equal. Some of them will say the goddess and the goddess's consort, like Morrigan and her consort Hearn. It's always the goddess first because the goddess is what gives life, essentially. But it was also, we believe that if it's specific outside of those deities, it's not just them. If someone else is coming to you, like I've had Ganesh from the Hindu, I've had Yamaya, which is an Afro-Caribbean water deity, come to me. Um, Artemis, the goddess, like so many of them outside those that we were working with were coming to me and saying, "Hey, I have a message for you." So it was always
uh,
the belief that if a specific deity or energy is showing up, it's because they have a message for you, or they have a lesson, or they have something that you are meant to do with them. So it's like if
like
spirit's calling, you answer because there's a reason why they're coming to you. So it wasn't just closed off to these entities. And then you have others who will only work with these deities. And it's not that they don't recognize that those other energies exist. It's just like these are the ones I work with. These are the ones I'm comfortable with.
right.
This goddess
It's a
calls
comfort
me.
level, right?
Absolutely.
I'm always fascinated by these things. I think they are so interesting. I have almost always been somebody who believed that there's a lot of different ways to get where we're going. My beliefs have changed a lot over the years. Maybe someday we'll get into those a little bit more, but I really want the focus to be on my guest. So, but the experience that I want to give is that you've had, and you mentioned before that you've had interactions with Christian witches.
Hmm.
And when I first started looking into Wicca, witchcraft, metaphysical, what I saw was a lot of people bashing Christians. And I said, here's the thing, is you can't say that there's many ways to get where we're going and bash one group. Now, I'm not saying that you need to let them be mean to you. You can defend yourself, but you should not defend yourself by insulting their faith because that's just lowering yourself down. You should be guiding them into, it's okay that you don't believe what I believe. It's even okay that you think what I believe is wrong, but it is not okay that you talk about me in that way. That is the way we should be
Absolutely.
approaching that because we need to befriend them. I love people. That's why I do these shows. I love people. I don't care what you believe as long as you're not hurting anybody. I don't care what you do, who you love. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say was the duality of nature's genders is interesting to me because we know that intersex is a real thing. I experienced that when I worked in healthcare, having babies that were born intersex.
Mhm.
We know that non-binary is a real thing. We know that there's a bigger spectrum. Ironically, the people, my friends, I'm so sorry, you guys, because you were wrong about this. The people that insist that those things aren't real and are wrong literally turn their God into an intersex God because he shows the feminine side of him in the Song of Solomon.
Mhm.
He talks about his feminine qualities. So
Well,
you've
and
turned
that's a
your
God who
God into the
created
thing that you're
life.
insisting doesn't exist. Yes.
Well, it's a God who created life. And in nature, I'm so sorry. It is the female that is responsible for the reproduction. So if there is one masculine God, they have to be intersex because there is no way. I mean, like I said, there are certain times where there's, the male in the species is very limited in that area. So the females will,
Yes.
transform into male gender so that they can
Right.
reproduce because there has to be, I'm sure we all have taken this, that we know how that happens. But you have to have both of those things to reproduce. So if you want to have
Correct.
one God, it has to be both masculine and feminine because there is no way that life can spring forth if it is not. It has to be an intersex
Right.
God.
Well, yeah, because it can't be asexual because only bacteria does that, and we're not bacteria. So, and if we were made in the image of a God, then they would have to be both or
Exactly.
separate as both, you know. Yeah, I just
Mhm.
thought it was really interesting that came to mind while you're going down that pathway. Man, you know what? This has been really good. Went a little bit off track from where I wanted to go, but that's kind of how I like these shows to go. So it's okay. I am going to wrap up this episode. We have just a couple minutes left. So I want to say all the nice things to all my people that I love so much. And so I'm going to say thank you, Rieka, even though you'll be back with me in just a few minutes. Thank you for coming and talking to us today. To all of our viewers, please check us out, www.weempowervoices.com. And we will have Rika's links to her website, her blogs, anything she's willing to give us. We'll have that up there for you because I know that she wants people to be able to learn more as well. Watching this is great, but you can always learn more. So we will say goodbye. We love you all for who you are, not who the world wants you to be. Bye.